welcome to Business Piglet's 6th episode. I mentioned last week in my previous vlog that I was really trying to get back into vlogging and trying to do episodes every week. I had a little bit of a break from it because I moved and I was busy with my business, but I'm really trying to focus on it again. So hopefully these are going to be a lot more regular, and I'm going to be trying to do these every week and releasing them every week so that it's a little bit more consistent. So the vlog last week, if you didn't see it, was the top 5 reasons to consider setting up your own business. They were quite personal to me, and they were sort of the main benefits that I kind of speak about when I tell people why I really enjoy running my own business. And I said last week that I really do think it's important to kind of give a balanced view of what it is like, because I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's the easiest thing in the world. There are going to be days when you kind of think, you know what, I sort of wish I had a proper job, and I totally get that, and I think it's really important to give both sides. So this week I'm going to be talking about the 5 downsides to running your own business. Now this kind of seems a little bit weird, as I'm obviously very pro running your own business, and I'm always trying to encourage other young people to consider it. However, I do think it's really important to give both sides. So this week I'm going to be talking about the 5 downsides to running your own business, all 5 reasons to kind of not run your own business. So I'm going to start off with number 1, and that is that it's a lot of hard work. And if you're not prepared to put in a lot of hard work, then I would kind of argue that it's not necessarily going to be incredibly successful. And the reason for that is because there's a lot to do, you know, especially in the beginning. You have to organise a lot of stuff. You have to work out who your target market is, how you're going to target that market, where you're going to find them, how you're going to do the marketing. You've got to work out your costings, and it can kind of feel a little bit daunting to begin with, because it feels like you've got like a never-ending list of stuff to do. And it is going to kind of be a little bit of a hard slog to begin with. It's not to say it's not fun. It's incredibly exciting at the beginning, and continuing on from them, it kind of carries on being exciting, but that's not to say that you do have to put a lot of stuff into it, and you kind of get out what you put in. So, you know, if you're not really prepared to kind of put in all that work, then I would maybe consider that it might not be the right time for you. As I say, it is fun, it's stuff that you enjoy doing, so it's not like you're doing stuff that you hate, but you know, you are going to kind of have to put your all into it in order to get something decent out. So that's kind of the first downside. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a complete downside, as it's kind of the exciting honeymoon period, if you like, but equally it takes a lot. And even when the business has been going for a little while and you're not even in the first stages, it's still going to be a lot of hard work. You know, you still have to maintain it. Your market might be changing. You've got to kind of stay on top of what you're doing all the time. You're going to have long lists of stuff to do that feels like it's never ending. And sometimes it can seem a little bit daunting when you've got a lot of stuff to do, especially when people are kind of finishing their working days at 5 o'clock and you've still got another 4 hours until you finish your tasks for the day. You know, that kind of thing sometimes can get you down a little bit. So that's definitely the first point to make, is that it is a lot of hard work. It's fun work, don't get me wrong, but you're going to have to do a lot, especially in the beginning. You're going to have to kind of give your all. So yeah, that's point 1, a lot of hard work. So point 2, now point 2 is kind of dependent on a few things, but this is kind of from my experience what I found. You're probably going to be quite poor to begin with. There's not many people that set up a business and it instantly starts making them a lot of profit. You know, it's quite unusual for that to happen. You might, for the first few months, maybe for the first year, maybe even the first couple of years, you might find that you're not going to have a lot of income to play with. You know, you're probably not going to be making a hell of a lot of profit to begin with, simply because a new business takes a while to establish. You know, it takes a while for you to find your feet. It takes a little while just to know what it is you're doing. You know, there's a lot of help out there, but you're still kind of going it alone. So yeah, you know, you might not be earning £1 million to begin with. You might not ever earn a lot of money. It kind of depends. Obviously, the other side of it is that you can set financial goals, you know, and you can kind of work towards them. So I would also argue that, well, you're kind of in control of how much you earn. But as I say, to begin with, you probably are going to be quite poor. And that is just speaking from experience. You know, I invested quite a lot of money in, and I'm quite lucky in the fact that my business generally has quite low overheads. But for businesses that have a lot of overheads, that means paying for equipment or paying for office space. You know, sometimes in the beginning, well, in most cases in the beginning, you're going to have to spend some money. In my case, I got a business loan. But a lot of people put their hard-earned cash into a business, and you're not necessarily going to see a great turn turnover at first, because these things do take time. But, you know, keep at it, keep going, and I promise it gets a lot better. As I say, I'm 2 years into my business now, and I'm really starting to see a faster turnaround from my investments, because you kind of get better at knowing what return on investments you will get. So I know if I spend a certain amount of money on, say, a Facebook ad, I'll know roughly the return I'll get on it. So it does get a lot easier, and I'm now kind of making a decent income, and it's growing every month, so that is brilliant. But for the first kind of year and a half, I was struggling. I did have another job as well just to support me. So, you know, if you're not kind of prepared to perhaps spend a little bit of time saving money and kind of scrimping a little bit, then again, you know, I maybe consider that it's not the right time for you. But I promise it does get better. So, you know, hang in there. Which brings me on to point number 3, and that is really scary. It is really, really scary, especially when you start out and you kind of don't really have a clue what you're doing, I would say. I remember going to my first ever networking event and being so scared to stand up and present, and kind of, it was like a minute I had to talk about my business and just kind of briefly summarise it, which is nothing now. You know, I'm so used to doing it, I do it every week. But to begin with, it is really, really scary. And, you know, you're going to kind of find, especially to start off with, that you're doing new things that you've never ever done with, and you're kind of getting out of your comfort zone. But do you know what? Again, it gets so much better, and you'll kind of look back and think, why was I ever scared about that sort of stuff? But the good thing is that you kind of continuously challenge yourself, and you'll just get bigger and better as you go along. So it is exciting, but you're going to have to be a little bit prepared to kind of, you know, get out your comfort zone and do stuff that you're probably not all that comfortable with and that you're not really used to doing. So whilst it is a downside in the fact that it's kind of scary and it's you know, a nervous time, I would also argue that it's actually a good thing, and it's a brilliant way of really kind of pushing yourself and doing things that you never really thought you would do. So there's kind of two sides to that aspect. 4 is that it can be a little bit lonely running your own business. As you kind of get on and you meet loads of other business owners, it gets a hell of a lot better. You sort of find a local support network around you of other people that are in the same position as you, and you'll find that it gets less and less lonely as time goes on. But to begin with, especially when it's just you and it's just kind of, in my case, it was just me in my room working from my laptop at home, you know, it does get a little bit lonely. It's not the same as when you go to work and you've got workmates, you know, and you meet in the staff room and stuff. It's kind of, that's a real benefit of going to work, is that you do get to be surrounded by people all the time. So it certainly is a little bit of a lonely place sometimes, especially when it's just you and you don't have a business partner and all the kind of workload falls on you. So yeah, it certainly can be a little bit lonely, but as I say, as time goes on, you'll find that everybody around you is so supportive, and that's the brilliant thing about having a business, is that you really do find good friends for life through doing this, and people that are so supportive and really do help you as much as they can. So as much as a downside as it is kind of feeling a little bit lonely, I'd also say that it sort of pushes you to go out there and meet other business owners and meet other people. So you can kind of flip it over and say that it's actually a good thing as well as a bad thing. So the last point, I'm not going to kind of dwell on this too much because I don't really want to talk about the negative sides of it all that much. I'd rather concentrate on the positives. But the last thing is that it kind of feels like you've always got so much to do. I mean, my to-do lists are just never ending, like they are infinite. It's honestly like so much stuff you feel like you've got to do. You've got to do your marketing, and then you've got to work on your existing clients, and then you've got to phone all these people, and you've got to send out these emails, and it kind of feels like it's all getting on top of you sometimes. But I find that when you have these to-do lists and you check them off, you actually feel like you've achieved something at the end of the day. You know, you feel pretty accomplished. So while it might feel like you've got a lot to do, when you kind of sit down and break it all up, it's actually not that hard. You know, a lot of it is just things like replying to emails, updating your social media, really basic things, but sometimes it can feel like it's kind of all getting on top of you. But there are certainly ways to manage that, and of course all the stuff that you don't want to do, the things that you're maybe not that good at, you can just hire someone else to do it on your behalf. So you end up long term with your business, you only ever do the things that you really enjoy doing, and you sort of pass on the shitty jobs to other people who are good at what they do. You know, there's no point spending hours doing something that you're not necessarily that good at. You know, when you could be spending that time on the business on something you are good at and building it, you may as well just outsource it. You know, I've sort of learned that in my 2 years of business. I've learned that the most important thing is your time. So spend your valuable time on things that you're actually good at and that you enjoy doing, and pass off all the other jobs to somebody else. I promise it will be so much easier. So yeah, that kind of draws it to a close really. That's the 5 downsides to running a business, or the 5 reasons to perhaps consider not running a business. Having said that, I would certainly say that the pros outweigh the cons, but as I mentioned at the beginning, I just think it's really important to kind of give a very balanced view of what it is like. So I thought it was quite important to kind of show both sides to it so people can make an informed decision for themselves. So yeah, that was Business Piglet's 6th episode. As I say, I'm not going to dwell too much on the negatives. I'm going to kind of move on now and speaking more about the positive experiences. So when I was younger and I was just setting up my business, there wasn't really anybody else that was sort of my age that I knew of that had done it. And it would have been quite nice to kind of been able to relate to someone else. So this is why I'm doing this. I really am trying to help other young people who might be considering setting up their own business, but they might think, well, how do I start? I don't, where would I go to for advice? This is why I'm really trying to get this message out there and really trying to share my story with other people. So as I say, please do subscribe, or feel free to comment anything. It all does really help with kind of getting the message across there. So yes, that will wrap up Business Piglet's 6th episode, and I will be back next week, Wednesday at 8 o'clock. Thank you, bye!